Hey everyone, guess who's back? It's the commish, back here with week 12 previews, the last of regular season scheduling, flex 13 next week, flex 13 scenarios explained this week. Let's get into it. Brian in the 12th man, 5 and 6, looking at the 6 right now, who's sitting at 4 and 7. Both in the consolation right now, but Milan does need a W here to not to worry. Why? Well, because Lucas has beat him in the division, and he's only a game back. So he controls his destiny with a win here, and I think he does win. And for Brian, he's pretty much in the mix in the middle there with the consolation, and I think that's where he's going to end up. Next up, we got Adrian in the age crew. He's sitting at 4 and 7, taking on Ryan and Deuce Bombers, 6 and 5. After all the kerfuffle with Deuce Bombers getting the W there, he's still not in the playoffs, so it really didn't have that much impact setting his lineup so far based on what I've seen. But anyways, let's move on past it. It's the first meeting between the guys. It's a must-win for Deuce to keep pace in the playoffs here. Loss here, and it basically means no playoffs. He wouldn't get a chance at Flex 13, a shot at the division, unless Luke, Deuce, and Robert all lost, which is going to be tough. Adrian, he's already been guaranteed a consolation. He beat Lucas already, who's the only other guy in it. Age crew wins this one in a shocker. I noticed Deuce Bombers got some key guys on the bye, and I have a feeling Adrian gets an upset here. And I called Adrian in an upset last week. It backfired. I feel more strongly in this one that he actually does win. The other one was just wishful thinking last week. Next one, I got Suze and Fighting Geese sitting at 8 and 3, taking on Matthew, who's now left the league. Basically, with this one, if Suze wins, Architect wins. Suze would play Eric for the international division title, and the only reason she would get a shot is because they're tied. They're tied in standings, and that's pretty much how that would pan out. Suze has already won $50 Canadian, which she chipped in, beating Luke last week as Swahini didn't put the money in. So essentially for Suze, she's just putting the $50 towards next year. So if anybody wins, they also have that option. Just throwing that out there. All signs just point to a rematch with Eric, because I think with Suze, with the Architects matchup, you'll see why. If Suze wins, Architect loses, and Sean loses, then Suze would play Brandon for first overall money. So there is an opportunity there. In this game, I got Geese winning. Next up, I got Robert and Templars. He's sitting at 6 and 5, taking on myself, 7 and 4. Robert's right in the thick of things still, but if I win and Joshua wins, it would be a rematch for the red and white division in week 13 with full lineups. If I lose, Joshua wins, he gets the red and white. To me, the body of work is there for me to win and tie him. Well, I guess technically for me to win and tie him means I would have beat him twice. So in that scenario, I think somebody deserves a shot at that rematch. But if Joshua had already beat me and was a game ahead, I don't think I get a rematch, that's for sure. But if I win and Joshua loses, I win the red and white. Because essentially I've already beat Joshua. Does he deserve a rematch to tie me? The way I see it, not really. But if you've already beat a guy 2-0, theory on that from the league. I'm curious to hear what you got. And I'm curious to see what the Flex 13 should be there. So please, your feedback if you watch these videos. It's a must-win for Robert to have a playoff chance next week. Otherwise, he ends up like Deuce Bombers and would likely be out unless, of course, Deuce and others lost. In this one, I got myself winning, but I am worried about it. Robert's had a pretty good, decent year. Next up, I got Sean and Fallen Misfits. He's sitting at 8 and 3. Big win over Deuce last week, taking on Chris and True North, 7 and 4. So Chris and True North, Maple Leaf Division champ. We can honestly say that you're the division champ. Swahini still has a chance at the division champ, even though he didn't put the money in. But you are the first division champ this year, Chris and True North. So congratulations. You get $50 Canadian back. Talk about Flex 13 for Chris. Well, it looks like he's probably just going to end up with an easy team. I mean, we'll see how it goes with the other division winners and where their records are at. I mean, if their records are tied at, say, 7-5, maybe those two teams would play for the third seed. We'll kind of see how that one goes out and plays that out. If Misfits wins and Architects loses, that literally could set up an $80 American game next week for the division and first place overall in the league, and maybe even technically top scorer. So again, if Misfits wins and Architect loses, could set up maybe a 3 payout game for next week. Could you imagine? Anyways, in this one, I hate to say it, Sean, I have Chris and True North winning. Surprisingly, I think C-Mac, Joe Mixon are winning games by themselves. And Christian True North just finds a way to win big games. I think he finds a way to win this one, and I guess you could say a bit of a shocker. Next up, I got Doosan, Subotica Spartans sitting at 6-5, taking on M Unique at Ellie Island 2-9. Essentially for this one, if Doosan wins, he gets a Flex 13 chance at the playoffs. And yes, he would get a Flex 13 week chance at the playoffs at 7-5. He didn't put the money in, but he still gets a fair shot. So if the season ended today as is, essentially the way I had it set up is the top scorer would play the lower scorer. So let's say there's 4 teams tied right now for that last spot. If the season ended today, it'd be Luke versus Doosan and Robert versus Deuce. Just to kind of give you an idea of how I'm thinking. Ellie is eliminated from consolation. Better luck next year. Hopefully you can make the draft and work and other things don't get in the way, which is always tough. I got Doosan winning this one. Next up, it's Luke and Too Good for a Name taking on Norm and Canadian Guy. Too Good 6-5, holding that last spot right now. Canadian Guy 1-10. Luke must win here to force a Flex 13 chance at the playoffs. It's that simple. You control your destiny right now, but you still have to win this one. Norm obviously is going to look to improve upon a 1-win year so far. Will he end up with 1 win? It's definitely trending in that direction. But with Mahomes as your corner piece, maybe he'll get a good draft going. I got Too Good winning here, though, and continuing to control his destiny. Next up, I got Krista and Storm sitting at 5-6, taking on divisional rival Lucas 3-8. Lucas showed me that every team he beat this year was actually in his division, and Krista's the last one. And it's a must-win for Lucas at any chance at the consolation. Essentially, if Danny or Milan loses, could set up a Flex 13 consolation matchup against a divisional rival to see who gets in the consolation playoffs and a chance at the first overall pick. Might not mean as much to Danny, but I'll definitely be looking at the tank job. I got Krista winning this one anyway, though. I don't think it's going to matter. Lucas has his favorite team, Chargers, and a few of key guys on the bye because of that, and Storm's going to win this one, go to 6-6. Next up, I got Danny Billsy Bob sitting at 4-7, taking on Joshua Life's a Mitch 7-4. Essentially, a scenario here you already know about it. Joshua wins, I lose. Joshua wins the red and white. Potentially, I want to know the league and if they think I should get a rematch because I already beat Joshua. But if he loses and I win, I get the red and white because I've already beat him. But I'm not really sure, and I mean I need clarification on this. And Joshua, I want your input as well. Billsy Bob's must win to guarantee consolation spot, as we just discussed in Green Lightning Storms preview. Life's a Mitch rebounding after the loss this past week and beating Billsy Bob's. So it might not even matter anyway. Me and Mitch, I think, are going to geared up to be tied anyway, and it will be a true who wins the division matchup. And I really hope that that's the way it ends up, because that's the way it really should end up, and it'd be great to see it go that way. Last up, a game that has so much impact on Flex Week 13. So much impact on the standings right now, and a huge congratulations to these two teams, both sitting at 9-2. Brandon and the architect, Eric and Suhino. Eric and Suhino in his first year, didn't feel confident enough to pitch in this year. Some people don't in the first year. I always find sometimes it comes back. And Eric and Suhino here has a chance to potentially could have doubled his money with this game if he wins. Again, it's 2 prizes on the line here in this game. If Brandon wins, he gets regular season champ, is very much likely, and the American division title is very much likely. But I will have to look at the scenarios too. If Sean wins and he is 1-0 versus Brandon, I'll have to look at the standings. Sorry, guys, I didn't look beforehand. But maybe Sean has a chance to tie him and potentially beat him for the division, considering he would have had to beat him twice to have the same record. I don't know. Again, input from the league, but I'm pretty sure that's how we ran it in the past. But again, he would get Canadian guy next week if he wins, because essentially, again, it's body of work. If he goes 10-2 and he's the only team at 10-2, in my opinion, he's the number 1 seed, and surely deserves it. So. For Eric, if he wins, guaranteed number 1 seed as well, as he would get Canadian guy next week as well. And essentially, Architect most likely would be in a battle with somebody for a 2nd seed, or not even 2nd seed, but maybe even the 5th seed, or potentially even a shot at the division still. So there's so many scenarios. I'm interested to see how it plays out. But again, you guys, please comment. I'm pretty sure we have set it up in the past that if somebody could get 2 wins versus somebody and have the same record, they would deserve that division title, and I'm pretty sure that's how the tiebreak would go down. So input, and I'll try to look at the previous leagues to see if that's the way it going down. Maybe Matthew is right. Maybe we do have a little bit of Calvin ball sometimes, but I know everybody who's been in this league from the beginning has always known how the league goes down. So, and again, I'm asking for league input. So anyways, have a great week 12, guys, and we'll see you next week.